Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Got a full face of glam because I'm going out for dinner. I thought I'd quickly record this before I go. I've been wanting to make this video for a little while, and what I want to talk about is this year I had a massive career change. I changed from the job that I thought I'd be doing for the rest of my life to something completely different, and I wanted to talk about why. Basically, today's video is talking about why I left clinical work, why I left the hospital. I left a job that was patient-facing to something completely different. I'll do a different video on what I'm doing now and the reasons why I chose what I did. So a bit of context, I'm doing my MBA at the moment and I'm working as a healthcare management consultant. Today I wanted to talk about why I left healthcare. While we've got amazing healthcare in Australia, there are problems in healthcare here, just like there is in every other country. One of the big reasons is that when you are working in healthcare, you don't feel like you're taken care of as a staff member. It was there before and it just got worse through COVID. Like, it's to do with ratios, it's to do with numbers of patients and things. You're treated as a number and you feel very disposable. It's really hard to get the areas that you do want, especially said in hospital. At the end of the day, as an employee, wherever you work, you want to feel valued. And I know in many different work settings, this is the case. People don't feel valued. The world is shifting to a space where people want to feel valued in their workplace, just like they want to feel valued everywhere else. And if that's not the case, people have the ability to leave. The problem with leaving healthcare is that then there's not enough staff to look after patients. Again, a little bit of context. By background, I am a physiotherapist. At the moment, I'm still keeping my registration up. So when I say I've left healthcare, I can still work weekend shifts. I can still work casually. That leads on to my next point, which is that it's a massive detriment to your mental health. I thought I was alone in this for a long time. I thought I was the only one feeling this way and I didn't really know where to seek help. When I did try to seek help, everywhere that you can access help was full. So I couldn't really get in. And then when I did, I don't think it was all that useful because the burnout and the fatigue was actually coming from the place that I'd spend most of my time. I found that I actually just needed to leave healthcare. And at that point, I was kind of like, I don't know if I need to leave temporarily or permanently. Maybe a change of a different hospital, a different environment might help. Honestly, it did, because it kind of showed me or taught me that this is definitely not what I want to keep doing. So the change was helpful in terms of my own mental health. All in all, working in the environment I was through COVID was very difficult, to say the least. I definitely struggled quite a bit. Following on from that, I've definitely put my own mental health as a massive priority. I'm in a much better space now, not just with my career, but putting my mental health and prioritizing that. Thirdly, I want to touch on this. Now, I know that it is very difficult in this environment. The lack of flexibility, especially in acute care, is so difficult. It makes sense that all staff are young in acute, because how is someone who has a family or has other commitments or needing to look after an elderly person who's in aged care or something like that able to then work shift work or hours where it's so rigid and very difficult to have any flexibility? Because of the fact that it works in ratios, you only have enough staff for the amount of beds or the amount of patients or whatever's on your list. When there's a shortfall, a lack of staff, or staff that have unplanned leave and things like that, it puts a massive burden on the rest of the team. As an employee or as someone working in an acute environment, you have to be so planned regarding what kind of leave you need and when you need it. I mean, obviously personal leave and sick leave, you can't really plan that ahead. Anything else, it makes it so difficult. Sometimes you can't do that as well. Like, you know, family things do come up. With my own family this year, we went to India for a week for my cousin's wedding, which came up really suddenly. Getting that leave was quite difficult. For some people, those kind of things are just impossible because of the environment that we work in. The way the system is structured doesn't account for that kind of flexibility. If people want to stay in healthcare in the long run, these are the things that they need to look out for. I also think it's really important in any work environment to have recognition, and real recognition. In healthcare, there is recognition amongst the team. Within physiotherapy, there is recognition. Within other areas, there is recognition. A very important part of any kind of work environment is to feel like your work is valued. And again, with how busy everyone is in healthcare, it's really hard to look out to see what other people are doing, even just little acts of kindness and service, going above and beyond for different patients. And you didn't really get any thank you, but then you are also expected to work through Christmas and New Year's and stuff, minus the public holidays if you're lucky. If you do above and beyond in terms of what you are doing already, then there is a decrease or lack of recognition in that sense. Look, this could be my lack of knowledge in other industries and other environments, but this is just how I felt. Another point I think is that in Australia, we are so lucky with the public health that we do have, but given it is public health, the lack of funding results in lack of resources, which results in patients in different environments not getting the right kind of equipment and things that they need need can result in frustrated patients, frustrated staff, frustrated teams, and the lack of resources is a big problem. You want to give your patients the best care and the best practice, but if you don't have the stuff to do it, you feel guilty. As you know, people who work in healthcare, a lot of people are quite empathetic. If your hands are tied and you can't do it, you feel guilty. Other people can get frustrated. It just causes a very hostile environment. One point that I want to make that is more so specific to me and maybe not so much to general healthcare is that the ceiling or the cap or the attrition rate for physiotherapists is about within hospitals, public health, is about 5 years. And I am the statistic. I lasted about 5 years and that's when I left. I felt that there's more that I could do, there's more that I could learn, and there's more that I could provide. Getting a more senior role can be quite competitive. Those jobs, people kind of stay in there. So then you're looking at progression, you're thinking, what else can I do? You can move into other areas of physio, but then if you're still going to get to that cap or that ceiling quite quickly, question, can I see myself doing this for the next 40 years? Not that you have to be doing anything for the next 40 years. There's nothing wrong with chopping and changing and doing different things. And for me, I definitely started questioning that. And then I started questioning whether I enjoyed it or not. For me personally, when I thought about whether I could do it for the next 40 years, I couldn't see myself working in an acute environment, constantly stressed and under pressure. I couldn't see myself doing that for the long haul. Like, statistics show it that people kind of leave around that time. If you think about the reasons why people do leave, those reasons can be addressed. Within healthcare, you get into this culture of complaining about certain things and talking about certain things in a certain way, not really doing anything to address it. And I just thought, okay, I could continue seeing patients, I could continue doing this, but at the end of the day, am I going to make that difference, or am I contributing to that difference to make a change in healthcare? You're making changes for each individual patient, and that's important, but making global change towards healthcare in general, I felt I wasn't doing that. The things that I enjoyed the most within healthcare was all the projects I got to work on, supervising students and educating, and realizing that I thought there was more that I could do outside of healthcare, but contributing to healthcare rather than being within it itself. At the time, I didn't really know what my options were, just kind of took opportunities as they came, which resulted in my massive career change. And I'm really happy with where I am now. Another reason I thought that more opportunity elsewhere was that while you've got a bit of a cap in terms of the attrition rate within physio, you've also got a bit of a salary cap. Now, I'm not saying the salary is bad. The salary is good. I do think that in other environments, you get pay rises, you get bonuses, you can chop and change, and you can actually achieve those higher salaries. For the kind of work that healthcare staff do, a nice way to value them is by actually increasing their wages, at least in line with inflation rates. With the EBAs and with the bargaining, you end up having almost a pay cut because it's not in line with increased inflation. It can actually show that, wow, they're doing something for healthcare staff. And finally, I think that patient care is great at times, but it can be so emotionally taxing at times. You're there with patients and they hear the worst news of their lives. You're there with family members when they're going through the worst times of their life. You're hearing all these stories and you're there at the most intimate time. You know you're going to see people at their best and at their worst. As a family member, as a patient, as someone, you just don't have the capacity to be a nice person sometimes because you're going through a lot. It's a tough environment for everyone around, for nurses who are with them right from the beginning, for allied health staff who might rehab patients day in and day out, for the doctors that provide difficult information and have tough conversations with patients. These things need to be acknowledged, and I think they're not acknowledged enough. While you try not to bring some stuff home, it can be quite emotionally taxing. Encouraging and ensuring the well-being of staff is so important so healthcare staff can actually present the best versions of themselves and support patients through that journey. When staff members are so overwhelmed with patient numbers, with lack of staff, being overworked, we're not able to be that empathetic soul that can actually take on more. Anyone who works in healthcare can say that you hear some horrid stories, you go through some horrible things with your patients. You try not to take those things home, but you actually don't know how it does affect you. I just don't think that healthcare sees that. You need to prioritize your staff's well-being so then they can prioritize their patients' well-being. Hospitals and public health services are realizing that staff members are leaving in drones. Some of these reasons are quite important and they need to actually address these things to make sure they have enough staff. Some of the areas I think healthcare can probably work on is obviously for staff retention, looking at well-being and seeing how they can improve that, looking at flexibility and seeing if there's a way to improve flexibility. I know it's a hard environment to do that. Little things to show appreciation is like if you're needing to park at a hospital, to work at a hospital, but then pay for parking. Kind of counterintuitive. Validation or valuing staff members, just little things like that would actually make a massive difference. So far, what has been happening is slapping more money towards healthcare staff. So these are some of the reasons why I left healthcare. Like I said before, I haven't left permanently. I still have my registration as a physiotherapist, and reflecting on this year, I kind of downplayed just how big this year has been for me. If you enjoyed this video or you got some insight from this video about the insides of healthcare, I would appreciate it so much if you could like, comment and subscribe. I would also love you guys can connect with me, so DM on Instagram, and all the links are in the description below as well. Stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.